For 3 steps, this plan has done one thing above all else. It has borrowed, taken on debt on purpose, used it to control assets far larger than your own money, and let time and inflation do the heavy lifting. And it worked. So now, at the very top, the plan does something that looks insane. First, it sells the engine that built all of it. And then, after a lifetime of borrowing deliberately, it reaches over and switches the debt off, on purpose. This is the step that has looked like a mistake since the very first video in this series. It is the most important step in the whole plan. And it is the difference between owning a large pile of assets and actually getting to live on them. One note before we open the final plans. This is general information, not personal advice. This is the pattern I have watched get built, not a set of instructions for you. Your situation is your own, so get advice before you act. Now, here is what almost everyone gets wrong about the exit. They think it is a day. The day you sign the contract, shake hands, and walk out of the building for the last time. It is not a day. The exit is a structure, and it was built years ago on the very first day by decisions most owners made without ever knowing they were making them. By the end of this, you will be able to read the whole final step. Why the exit is built long before the sale. The concessions written into the law for exactly this moment. The switch that looks like a mistake and is not, and what the machine finally pays you once the whole thing is done. Start with the wall because it is the one that costs the most and shows up the latest. Most owners build for 20 years and then think about the exit in the final month. By then, it is far too late. Whether the sale of a business is taxed lightly or taxed all the way to the bone is not decided on the day you sell. It is decided at the beginning by the structure that owns the business and by choices made long before anyone was thinking about leaving. And the decisions are specific. Who owns the goodwill? Whether you are selling the company itself or only its assets, whether the thing you built even qualifies as the kind of active business the good concessions were written for. 2 owners can sell near identical businesses for near identical prices in the very same year, and one keeps a fortune while the other hands a large slice to the tax office that never had to leave, purely because of a choice one of them made or missed a decade earlier. This is home turf for an advisor, and it is the entire reason Step 1 told you to build a business that was an asset you could sell, not a job you were trapped inside. The exit was never a transaction at the end. It was always a structural decision at the start. Now the part that genuinely surprises people, because it sounds too good to be legal. Written into Australian tax law is a set of concessions built for one very specific person. The owner selling an active business they spent their working life building. There are 4 of them. Stacked together for a genuine small business owner, they can shelter a very large part of the gain on that sale. In some cases, the whole of it. Not by hiding anything and not by finding some crack in the system, by using rules the Parliament wrote on purpose for exactly this. And this is where the channel has to be careful because it matters. This is not a loophole. It is not a trick, and it is not something the tax office would quietly prefer you never found out. It is deliberate policy, written because the law recognizes something simple. For most of these owners, the business was the retirement fund. There was no employer quietly paying super into an account in the background for 30 years. The business was the super. So the law lets the sale of that business be treated gently, in much the way it treats a lifetime of superannuation for everyone else. That is the design of the thing, not a leak in it. And there is a second door that opens at exactly the same moment. Some of those sheltered proceeds can be moved straight into superannuation above the normal yearly limits into the lowest tax environment in the entire country. So the money that came out of selling the engine does not sit exposed out in your own name, taxed at the top rate. It lands in the gentlest room in the whole structure, the same one Step 3 quietly introduced you to. One honest note on timing. The rules around exactly when a sale is best made have themselves been shifting lately, And that timing question has become a real one, worth getting right before any exit. It has its own breakdown coming in this series, and it earns it. Which brings us to the move at the dead center of this whole series, the one held back since the very first video. For 3 steps, the plan did a single thing above all else. It borrowed, leverage on, debt used as a tool deliberately to control far more than you actually owned. And now, at the top, the plan reaches over and switches it off. It pays the debt down on purpose. After a lifetime of borrowing on purpose, it now unborrows just as deliberately. That is the step that looks like a mistake. So why do it? Because leverage is a tool for exactly one phase of life. The building phase, the years when you have a strong income to service the debt and time on your side to ride out any fall along the way. In those years, borrowing is your greatest ally. But the day the income stops, the day you finally step back from the engine, that same leverage quietly changes sides. The debt that was a lever becomes a threat. A rise in interest rates that was once just a headwind you earned your way through becomes a genuine danger. Because now there is no salary standing behind you to absorb it. Nothing about the debt itself changed. What changed is that you are no longer earning your way through it. So the plan changes gears. It takes the liquid share position from step 3 and the proceeds from the sale, and it clears the debt off the assets, leverage off. And this is the honest heart of the whole series, the part the finance channels never quite reach. The tools that build wealth are not the tools that hold it. Borrowing, growth, concentration, a stomach for risk, those build. Paying down, income, safety, liquidity, those hold. Step 4 is the exact moment the plan stops trying to get richer and starts trying to stay rich and to pay you. It looks like a contradiction. It is really just the difference between climbing and arriving. So look at what is left standing once the debt is finally gone. The machine has been quietly reconfigured. It is no longer built to grow. It is built to pay. The commercial property from step 2, now unleveraged, throwing off net rent every month. The share portfolio from step 3, paying franked dividends into the right rooms. And a superannuation pension, holding the proceeds of the sale, taxed as lightly as almost anything is taxed in this country. 3 separate streams of income. No debt sitting underneath any of them. This is the machine finally running for you instead of you spending your life running for it. And for a few, at the very top of the plan, there is more coming out of the machine than the family will ever actually need. When that happens, there is one last structure worth naming: a private ancillary fund. It lets a family set aside a permanent pool for giving, a tax-deductible contribution going in, an irrevocable gift that can never come back out, the family staying in control of where it goes, and a portion distributed to charity year after year. It is not for everyone, and it is not the middle of the plan. It is the roof. It is what gets built once the house beneath it is finished, and there is still something left over. So now you can read the whole plan, foundation to roof. Step 1. Build a business that is a genuine asset, not a job, because the engine funds everything above it. Step 2. Turn its profit into leveraged property and let debt and time do the heavy lifting. Step 3. When the borrowing finally runs out, add the ballast, a liquid, franked, gently taxed income, held in the right rooms. And Step 4. Sell the engine using the concessions written for that exact moment. Move the proceeds into the gentlest corners of the structure and switch the leverage off, turning a machine that was built to grow into one that is built to pay you. 4 steps, in a deliberate order, each one only ever possible because of the step sitting beneath it. That is the architecture. That is how serious Australian wealth actually gets built. That is the blueprint, drawn from the foundation all the way to the roof. If you have watched this series through to here, you now understand the shape of Australian wealth better than almost anyone ever will, not the tactics, the architecture. And from this point, the channel goes deeper. A breakdown of each wall we have only sketched so far. The valuation of the engine, the loan structures behind the property where the shares actually live, the 4 concessions on the way out, one careful piece at a time. The plan was the map. The breakdowns are the terrain. If this series was useful to you, subscribe. So those breakdowns reach you as they land. And if you have arrived here at the end without seeing the start, go back to the very first step and watch the whole thing get built in order. The plan is waiting for you there from the ground up.